is written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor. We will just understand this topic by positioning this under the larger syllabus framework. So we are basically talking about GS3. In GS3, when you are studying, you will see various sectors of economy. So you have, broadly speaking, agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors. So when we are talking about the IT industry, we are talking about an industry that is roughly contributing to 8% of our GDP. Right? Services is not just IT. Please understand that. There are other services too. What are those services? You can go back and check with your basic classes. So, if 8% of GDP is contributed from this services sector, if AI is coming into the picture, do you think we will still make this 8%? Yes or no? In the present context, you are witnessing mass layoffs in many IT companies, including tech giants like Microsoft, Meta, etc. Right? So, what is the situation for India? Because even now, IT jobs are predominantly the source of livelihood for millions of young Indians. At this crossroads, how should the government look at the IT policy? What should be the transition, the actionable agenda going forward? That is what this article is about. So to appreciate this, you need to understand the evolution of IT industry. See, generally when every economy is passing through different phases of technology, first they will have agricultural surplus. If you take a look at history, then they'll get better at manufacturing, and to cater to that manufacturing sector, you will have a service sector. Just to give you a rough example, let's say a country is doing well in terms of agriculture. They have agricultural surplus. With that surplus, they started an industry. Let's say they started something like an air conditioning industry. That manufacturing plant is set up, and you will have the entire ecosystem like post-sale services. This is how traditionally every economy will progress. But when it comes to India in 1991, because of LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization, the economy virtually opened up so that foreigners can come back and invest in India with less restrictions. At that point of time, India was desperate to lap up any opportunity that is coming up their way. In order to set up a manufacturing plant, you will require huge investment. But when it comes to an IT company, all you need is one office and a training partner who is capable enough to train millions of Indians. India was positioned in a very good place because we are 9 to 12 hours behind US. So when US goes to sleep, India started working. And in that way, the multinational companies had round-the-clock services. That was the first advantage that India had, geography. Second, we were not reluctant to learn English. First is geography, then second is our cultural acceptance to English, which gave us economic opportunities. Third, there is a concept called arbitrage. What is arbitrage? Let's say You buy this company's pen, for example, from China for $1. You take the same and sell it in the US for $10. The difference is nothing but arbitrage. So, IT companies made money based on this concept of arbitrage. They promised jobs. Let's say, for example, there is a TCS, Wipro, Infosys, all this kind of companies. They promised a job worth, let's say, 30,000 per month. And they used to charge 60 from the client. And the client used to pay. And this difference, when it is voluminous, when the business scale is huge, that is how the big IT mega corporations in India like TCS, Wipro, all this came into existence. So it was a volume game. You know, there were many jokes about how TCS used to hire the entire college. You know why? Because they were playing this volume game. Now, that entire scenario shifted. Can you tell me why? Because what a single AI agent can do was actually done by, let's say, many people. Let's say there was one report which said that a single ChatGPT subscription can replace 45 TCS employees. So one subscription, 45 jobs. This explains the mass adoption of AI in these IT companies because it is about survival for them. You can no longer go to an American client and say that I will have this arbitrage, because they'll say, I have ChatGPT, why should I give you a project? So they are forced to make this transition, and in this case, you are losing out so many jobs. Alright, this is the present scenario. What about the path ahead? Now, when we are discussing this path ahead, there are two kinds of debates about the role AI will play. Let's say there will be people who say that there will be complete replacement. And then there is another section which says that new jobs will be created. So let's look at the fundamental nature of this technology. People who say that new jobs will be created often quote this concept of creative destruction. Please note this point, creative destruction. What is this creative destruction? When a new technology which is much more efficient than the older one comes into the market, the older technology will automatically get decimated. And that older technology will be replaced by the newer one. So it is getting destroyed, therefore destruction. And it is also creating an opportunity for something new, therefore creative destruction. So the proponents who say that new jobs will be created by AI, compare this with the previous trends of technology. Every time there was a new technology, old jobs were removed, new jobs were added. This is what they say. But this, counter is that the nature of this technology. Previously, all the technologies were simply targeting muscle power. Let's say, if there is an accountant who is writing bundles of accounts, that is now replaced by one accountant who will handle multiple accounts through an Excel sheet. So, most of the previous technologies, even though there was an element of brain work, replaced muscle power more than our cognitive power. But the nature of this technology, we are faced with the challenge of this technology taking away the thinking power away from humans, which is the basis of their salary. So, from 2010 or 2007, I would say, till 2020, you saw a tremendous surge in this data sciences, data analyst. The job description of a data analyst is he will be given a Excel sheet with random numbers. You are expected to give some insight based on that data on which the companies will take decisions going forward which will help their business. Now that can be done through a single prompt. What used to be, I personally know one specific scenario, what used to be worth almost 4.5 crore worth project, monthly 4.5 crore. That was the bill incurred for that company. That was entirely automated through one ChatGPT API, which is worth 20,000. You can imagine the kind of jobs that are getting replaced now. So, the article questions, how are we going to create new jobs? See, the way you have to look at this technology is that if a company comes into the picture and says that we are automating everything, the same automating pathway can also be used by your rival company. Then what is your advantage? Nothing. So, the nature of the jobs is only going to be leveled up. Now you have to look at AI as a thinking partner. You are forced to enhance your understanding and enhance your thinking capability even more. This is not just true for companies, it is true for you guys also. Just don't rely on lazy, prompt driven answers or content. If AI is available, the level of insight you are supposed to gain out of it and absorb it, not just be happy with the output, it should also be ingrained, right? At all these levels, it's going to be a huge challenge. So, the dilemma that Indian economy, especially with respect to IT, what is that? How do we handle the threat of temporary complete replacement? Yes, some jobs will be completely taken away. They'll completely get destroyed. But the nature of humanity is such that we will figure out ways to achieve higher productivity. So AI will be used for higher productivity. And in that scenario, you are going to expect skilling. AI will become just like electricity and internet. You have a thinking partner. What do you do with it? That's how companies are going to look forward about this technology and the economy. Yes, we will see a temporary halting, but jobs are going to be produced. But this time, India will not have the same kind of advantage where we played by volume. But India needs volume because we have to address demographic dividend. So it's time that we look at skills and diversify into newer areas and not just depend on IT. Otherwise, this demographic dividend or the benefit that we were supposed to have because of young population that is there in our country right now will actually become a burden to us. Okay, that is how you have to look at this article, the first one. Now, second one. The case for energy efficiency, it's actually a very interesting case. I'll tell you why. See, installed capacity and actual generation. These are two different things. What am I talking about? Let me give you a context. See, we are basically talking about electricity generation. You know that India has a goal of net zero by, what do you mean by this? It means that you have to reduce greenhouse gas emissions or to zero. That is, whatever you add should be taken up. The net will be zero. In this context, we have had the goal that we will move towards renewables. So, renewable sources of energy like solar, wind, etc., they are supposed to solve this problem. Till here, the premise is clear. But here comes the twist. After this increase in the addition of renewable energy capacity, we are actually witnessing an increase in carbon emissions. What explains this dilemma, this paradox? Exactly. The difference between capacity and actual generation. Let's say you are saying that a particular solar plant is capable of producing 1 megawatt. Having the capacity to produce and actually producing are two different things. I'll give you a simple analogy. Let's say on a daily basis you are having some biryani, and then suddenly you realize that you have to be healthy and you will start, consuming salad. You will have it for a day or two, and then on the third day you realize this is not working out. We have to go back to biryani because you are still feeling hungry in the middle of the night. You wake up, eat a full biryani after eating a salad. Your net calorie intake is now more than what it was before. And then you suddenly realize this plan is just not working out, it's not sustainable. What do I do? That is the kind of conundrum that we are in right now. So the midnight hunger that I'm talking about is nothing but the peak load factor. When will you need more electricity? In the evenings, nights. Why? Because there is no sun. When will solar work best? In the morning. Do you have battery storage technologies? No. Where will you go back? Obviously, to coal. Why coal? Because that is the most reliable factor. So, because of this conundrum, we are witnessing something called grid emission factor. This is getting higher and higher. As capacity addition is done, they realize that the grid cannot be stabilized with just wind or solar. They switch off those. I'm just giving you an analogy. They're not literally switching off. They divert the source from solar to a coal. And this is forcing the plant to work even more harder, and therefore you are having this grid emission factor higher than what it was supposed to be. Now, if you compare the grid emission factors of various economies, in India it was supposed to be somewhere around 0.703 according to the article. You can go back and verify the data. But now it increased to 0.74 in the last few years. Now if you compare the same with a country like Norway, it is just 0.1. Why? Because the cleaner sources of fuel are hydro and other sources that no longer dependent on coal. There are countries like France where the factor is 0.3. Their major cleaner source is nuclear. So we are at that crossroads now. We want to move towards cleaner sources, but we are moving in the opposite direction. At the same time, we also want to stop depending on other countries for oil. And yet we are moving towards battery vehicles where the batteries production is dependent on China. This is the kind of dilemma that India is placed in. So what is the best bet? What does India have that others don't? Our human resources. So our best bet is to make the existing technologies efficient. So energy efficiency is where we should start. How do you figure out a diet plan so that you are neither starving nor overeating? That is where you have to go to a dietitian, right? In a similar way, even energy experts suggest that the energy mix should be optimized for peak load factor and grid emission efficiency. This is the policy suggestion where most of our resources should go into R&D for making the grid much more energy efficient. Clear? That is the second article for the day. Has cloud seeding been effective? What is the answer? Should I explain? Let's go forward. What are the challenges with the High Seas Treaty? Regarding the previous article, I've already done that in the previous classes. So go back, or it's a self-explanatory article, you can read it for yourself. What are the challenges with the High Seas Treaty? Okay, let me give the context of this article too. Let's say this is India. Pardon my sketching skills, but let's say this is the southern part of India. According to international law, till this point, India has control over the sea. But what about this area? Do you think this open ocean should be conserved? Do you think somebody should take responsibility of conserving this? Because everybody is using it, nobody is taking responsibility. Right? So, there is a treaty which talks about the biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. Okay? So, there is a principle, global commons principle, you are aware, right? High seas is now treated as global commons and it is the responsibility of every nation, right? So to conserve it, we are requiring some tools, some methodologies and tools to conserve, where all the countries will come onto a common platform and say, let's all use these tools, so that there is no confusion on how we approach this idea of conservation. It is in this context, there is a concept called marine genetic resources. So, you might get a UPSC question. Is the treaty controlling marine genetic resources of the entire ocean? No. Only those biodiversity elements which are beyond the national jurisdiction. This belongs to the sovereign nation under which it is under control. Okay? Please be careful about that. So, the reason why I brought this up is because from environment, you will get prelims questions which can be twisted at the concept. If you understand the broad logic, just by reading the statements, you will understand they don't make sense and you can eliminate them. So read it like a very logical story, so you will understand the intent behind those specific laws. That's how you should read it. Clear? Now, another. Heavy metals. Again, this is important for prelims. In Tiruchirappalli, one research organization found out that there is heavy metal presence in the river water of Kaveri. And the fish found in that river have heavy metal poisoning beyond what is permissible as per both World Health Organization and FAO. In short, long story short, because of pollution, poisonous chemicals are found in fish, and if they are consumed, humans will fall sick. Okay? So, the way in which these heavy metals get accumulated in our body, that process is called bioaccumulation. So, this is one concept that everyone should know. Now, what are the heavy metals found here and why are they finding their way into river water? So, UPSC has a tendency to ask questions on pollutants. Okay? Pollutants, their sources, and respective treaties or any regulating mechanism. This is a very important theme in UPSC prelims. Please note it down. If you are not aware, please note it down so that the next time you come across any such news article, you will take a note of it. Clear? So, if you go back to this article, you will see one, the concept of bioaccumulation, which heavy metals are there, what are the anthropogenic sources of this pollution of river water, what should we do to avoid it. This complements both the prelims and mains preparation in this level. The mains part, you will find it here. Just read this article once again. It is there in the Hindu science page. Okay? Next. This will be the last article for the day. It is about the tribal reserve that is there in Andaman and Nicobar. Lot of prelims questions can be asked. This project has been in news from the past 5 years. So this is extremely important for prelims. And that is why I am asking this questions now. Tribal reserve. Can you tell me, or are you aware of any law which recognizes this tribal reserve? Forest Dwellers Act? Can you think of it? Is it under the 5th schedule? Biodiversity Act? Wildlife Act? Forest Protection? Is there a law? Forest Protection Act? What law? So let's say casually UPSC gives that so and so tribe resides in Great Nicobar and a tribal reserve is there under 5th schedule of Indian Constitution. True or false? You should know all this. So in the case of Andaman and Nicobar, there is a peculiarity about the tribes that reside there. Can you tell me what that peculiarity is? Most of them are uncontacted tribes who are still living a very, very primitive life. And they are what we know as the PVTG. Can you tell me the PVTG in Great Nicobar? You can expect a question like this. Shompen. So there are many tribes in this, Onge, Shompen, Jarwa, etc. To conserve their habitat under a specific law of parliament, tribal reserves were declared way back in 1950s. Now, because of this mega infrastructure project, that entire tribal reserve which was protected now is getting denotified. What is the implication of this denotification? Anyone from the mainland can enter into that area. It's literally the story of Avatar. Yes or no? Basically, this is Avatar story. Now, what are the questions that you can expect in prelims? What is the denotification process? What are the ministries involved? For example, only tribal ministry? No. There are a series of institutions which are involved in giving this environmental clearances. And without the MOFC getting involved, that is Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, you cannot have a clearance. Any environmentally impacting project will not go forward. And because tribals are involved, obviously tribal ministry is there. So there are so many prelims concepts here. One, the definition of PVTG and the criteria. How many PVTGs are there? Which state has the highest number of PVTGs? What are the PVTGs in news? What are the PVTGs in previous year questions? You need to be aware. The denotification process, under which law? You need to be aware. The tribes in Great Nicobar, the geography of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. What are the various national parks available in Andaman and Nicobar? This kind of research should be done. Do you find any critically endangered species? Leatherback turtle. What is the difference between a turtle and a tortoise? These kind of interlinkages you should be having when you are preparing geography environment. Okay? Go back. You can also read just by searching Great Nicobar project on the Telegram channel. You'll get a series of articles corresponding to this news. You can go through them also. Okay? So these are the most important issues for the day. That's it for today. Have a good day.